Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I'm Diane Curley, your host of Celebrating Women. Now, you know, we've been doing this show a while, okay? And we celebrate women with the goals of demonstrating that every woman is a role model. We want to amplify women's voices, visibility, influence, and impact. We want to heal this generation and save the next. Well, this week, I've got somebody you're just going to fall in love with, because I know I did the first moment I met her. And we're just going to have a wonderful, great show together. You know, we started 5 years ago as a blog, and then we grew, okay? We did the digital magazine Celebrating Women for 2021. We have done the Celebrating Women Planner Journal, where we included quotes from all the women that we interviewed over the 5 years, inspirational quotes attributed to them to really, inspire other women. Then, lo and behold, we grew some more, and now we're doing this TV show. We love it. We love it here on Public Access TV, and we appreciate everything our sponsors do for us. And in that vein, I would like to say welcome to the Celebrating Women show, and let me introduce my guest, Jacqueline. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Diane, for having me. And I'm pumped to be here. I think that this is an amazing thing that you're doing. I think that just helping women amplify their voices and getting their message out there, whether they're in the business world, creative world, every woman has a story to tell. And I think that it's really powerful to be able to have a platform to tell that story. So kudos to you for doing this.
Thank you so much.
I'm so honored to be here. I was thrilled when you asked me to be on this show with you, because I definitely have some cool stuff to share with the audience today. And I'm pumped.
That's great. I'm so excited you're here. Go ahead. You know I don't like to start, you've seen my shows, I don't like to start with a bio. I want to jump right in. I want to really celebrate Jackie today, and I want you to go ahead and tell us your story.
Yeah, so my story, professionally, I started my career at PwC. I worked there for about 7 years, and I was in accounting, and I did technology consulting, and I've always loved being able to uncover business problems and do things like that. And so eventually I resigned from that position and started my own business intelligence consulting firm, where I really am passionate. Like, I am a geek. I really am passionate about data and being able to help businesses uncover very novel insights and things like that. But that is a part of me that I love to explore, and that's what I do professionally. But also, I have a part of myself that's been living in the background of my life since I was 7 years old, and that is writing poetry. And for me, I've been writing poetry since I was 7 years old, but poetry was different. When I was 7, it was rhyming. It was just understanding, I guess, the world around me. It was reactionary to things like that. And then as I got older, I recognized that I wanted to do more with my writing. I wanted to have impact. I wanted to help people. I wanted to heal people. I wanted to use my writing to eventually, coupled with my faith, bring more souls back to God and heal people and just do as much as I possibly could with it. So right around the ages of like 15, I would say, unknowingly, I started working on my first poetry book. I would just be journaling, and I'd listen to my friends growing up, and I would just listen to people around me, hear their stories. Someone was going through a breakup, someone was going through a very hard emotional time in their life, or a celebratory time too. And being able to just kind of collect that emotion and synthesize that and put that into a form of art that other people and myself could heal through and we could resonate with. And so that was the culmination of, after 10 years or so, I would say, from 15 to 25, I started doing all this emotion collecting and listening and writing and writing. And then 25 years old, I published my first book, Water Lilies, which is here today, which I was fully intended really at first was intended to just help inspire and heal many young women. The book itself did very, very well, but it actually surprised me because it was intended for women. Some of the topics were more writing from a woman's perspective too. Certainly makes it a little bit more subjective as well. But there were a lot of men that definitely took to it and felt that it was something that they could identify with too. So it started to cross over a demographic more than I recognized. And then I realized, like, I want to help women but I want to help men too. I want to help everyone, however I can, you know, within limits. So now I'm just writing poetry all the time. I have an Instagram page. I post a lot daily. Affirmations, inspirational things, messages, faith-driven messages, and regular poetry. I like to write about love, life, self-identity, things like that. Different themes that are very common for people.
And everybody can relate to that.
Yes.
I got your book, and I read it cover to cover in one night. I couldn't put it down.
Aww.
Every passage was captivating, and you really hit on so many elements of, you know, the human collective, the human soul, the spirit, what we all go through together. One of the highlights for me when I met you was hearing you speak. I don't know, is it called reciting your poem? Maybe I'm using the wrong language, but it was the spoken word up on a stage.
Yes.
And it was so impactful that I left the show while another creative artist was doing their creative work.
Yeah.
I went out into the lobby and I just stopped to talk to you because I was so impacted by what you had, the spoken word up on stage. And when I saw you had a book, I had to get it right then and there. And that very night, I read it cover to cover.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I never knew that. Thank you.
And then since then, you wrote another
And since
book.
then, I wrote, well,
right?
That event that she's talking about was a pivotal point for me as a writer, even in my faith journey too. So this was an event on Long Island that had probably 750 plus people at, and it was a music concert. It was a worship event where we were able to just worship together, worship God, and be able to explore that through music. I had the opportunity to be there and to read my poetry, but that event really inspired me because after I was up on stage, and one of the things behind me on the actual screen itself behind me was some of the poetry that I had posted on my page from a series that I started called Conversations with God. And this is a series that is very intimate, the way it's structured. It has I have a personal conversation in my mind, which, I affirm that it's Holy Spirit driven for me at least, where I feel like God is speaking directly to me, whether it's my sufferings or a certain situation that I might be going through. And so I started penning those, and I put together a book, but I didn't put that book together until I was at this event where I met Diane, and I realized that this is a book that needs to come to fruition, because I've started doing all of this type of style actually on my Instagram page. But when this event happened, people were so moved, and I realized I was like, you know what, I feel like God is calling me to do a different type of book. This is not a book where it's regular poetry. It's just very simple. It's very simple. I used a Remarkable tablet, which is like my favorite little paper tablet I use to do my poetry on, to write it. And I just remember being like, this is the most simple book I think I might ever write in my life, but it wasn't about me. It wasn't a glorification about me as a writer. It was about, I wanted a message. I wanted God's message to come out and to help as many people as possible, to heal people. I wanted people to see the intimacy in the conversations that me, someone that might appear to have it together on paper, suffers. Like, I literally have hard things that I go through like anyone else. And there's so much honesty and rawness and transparency in these dialogues that I just wanted people to resonate and be able to see that, hey, it's normal. We're all human. We all have hard things, and we all need God differently. So this book was born from being inspired by the people in that room that very night, when I recognized that the energy that Diane brought to me after that event, after I spoke, people like her coming up to me, just made me realize, like, okay, I love what I did with my first book, Water Lilies, but I want to do something different to help people. So that's it.
Very impactful. And talk a little bit about the impact that both of these books have had on you, but have you heard also from people, you know, like I just said, how impactful it was for me? Have you heard back from your audience?
Yes, and it's a beautiful thing, and I recognize, like, one of the things that I'm learning is that you don't always have to hear to know that it's impacting. Some people are silently impacted, and that's, you know, I do this for God. I don't do this for myself. So I don't need to know exactly the great things that are happening from people reading these books. But it is wonderful when you do hear it. You know, I'm a human. It's nice to hear, like, hey, that was great from time to time.
Well, that helped me. And
Exactly. So yeah, I've gotten some wonderful messages through my Instagram page, but like people such like this affirmation you just gave right now, in terms of like it inspiring and touching you in that way too. And I get that. You know, I don't get that often from doing too many speaking events, because that's a few here and there, but very, very frequently I do get those types of messages through my social media pages, and it continues to give me more confidence to push onward. Not that I search for it, but it's like it's special, and I love that people want to share that with me. So
yeah, and it's special that you're sharing, you know, the love of Christ through these words, through your poetry, through the spoken word, through the written word. It's the love of Christ, and I think, you know, it's true. You know, as women, especially, other women might look at you and think, well, that's the whole package. She's smart, she's beautiful, she's an author, she has her own business, la-da-da. But we're just, take away our labels, and what we are is the children, you know,
we are children of God.
Children of God. And we all struggle. And we all need God.
Amen.
And you know, if you know, having, you know, for me, it's impactful to have you on the show, because it resonates with my message too. You know, I want to empower women. I want to raise their voices and their visibility, share their impact and their influence. But it's all, our identity, at least mine is in Christ. I'm a nurse. You're a businesswoman. I'm a mom. You're a wife. I mean, but take away our labels and really focus on what our impact is, and who we can help. You know?
100% agree.
So, and that's what we're called to do. We're called to love. We're called to serve. Okay? And that's what you're doing, and I love that. As a matter of fact, when you told me, when we talked and you told me you were coming out with Conversations with God, and were inspired by that night, I was like, oh, I'm going to buy your first book. And then I said, okay, maybe not your first. I'll let your husband or your family, but I'll be at the beginning of that line. And I was so grateful you gifted me that book, and it's just really, really beautiful. You know, but how would you describe your life so far in 3 words?
Protected. I feel like there's been many instances where I could have gone down a path that might not have been good for me spiritually. Receptive. I feel like my heart's very much been open for most of my life to whatever God's calling was for me, whether it was, you know, resigning from a professional position with stability and starting a new business, launching my books, doing this, just embracing the passion He's given me with this art form and taking it to the next level. And, you know, I think creativity, too, is something I've always loved, just the awe and the wonder of looking at the world around me and figuring out, how can I make something beautiful out of this?
Yes.
You know? So I would say receptive, creative, and
protected. You said. I liked that. You know, it's that's something to bounce around here a little bit, is that protected. You know, like for myself, you know, when you're going through things, sometimes you don't feel protected. You feel vulnerable and exposed and raw
100%.
and in pain. But then when you realize, and it might take a friend to help you realize this.
It's usually the wisdom after you've gone through it, or an outside party. But even then, you never really believe what the outside party is saying until you actually see it yourself sometimes.
And know that you were not alone,
You
and
weren't.
you were protected.
You were. And a lot of the no's, I've had plenty of rejections in my life, professionally, personally, where I was like, why not me? Like, I did all of this. I chased this. Thought I did everything I needed to do, and things just didn't add up. And I'm like, well, if things are not adding up, and God's clearly, there's something in this equation that I can't see that is making this not add up. Something is subtracted, something is happening here. There's another form of computation, if you will, because that's how my brain works.
Data.
Right? That is not allowing this equation to work out. And that sometimes is, maybe it's the wrong moment, different timing, or maybe I need to learn a different lesson first. Maybe I don't have the right people in my life at the present moment. So whatever it is, I don't need to figure it out. I'm already stressed doing the things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about figuring out what God's got in store for me.
You're just trusting.
I'm just trusting. So.
And that was a big thing for me. I used to think that God was trying to teach me patience. I would try to figure out, like, well, what's the lesson here? And I often would fall back to, oh, it's got to be patience, because I'm not a patient person.
Yeah. Me
and
too.
then, right? And then one day, after bemoaning, and wrestling with God, so to speak, that's what my husband's like. He said, if you're always wrestling with God.
Right.
It occurred to me that that's what he was trying to teach me. The Lord was trying to teach me to trust.
Yep.
And that was such an epiphany for me.
Yep. That lesson that's a hard one.
Yeah.
It's a hard one, and everyone tackles it differently. For me, I know that trusting is just like believing that no matter what happens, my life story's already been written. God knows everything in between, from when I was born to when I will die.
The purpose, the pain.
Why am I going to stress about it? Even this moment that I'm in right now, God knows how this moment starts. He knows how it's going to finish. Like, what's the stress in trying to figure everything out? And easier said than done.
Right.
Granted,
right.
when you're in the moment, you're like trying to figure it out, but then
you're trying to fix it.
Trying to fix it too. Absolutely. But it's a good anchor to come back to when you recognize, like, okay, this is out of my control.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
That was a big lesson for me, so I hear you on that.
I think it's a big lesson for a lot of people, whether they know it or not.
Yeah.
Trusting God is one of the hardest things, because it means relinquishing our desire to control it.
Yes. And, as women, as wives and mothers and business owners, okay, we're in charge of a lot of fixing.
Oh, yeah.
And organizing. And,
we have a lot of other people's schedules going on in our minds, too.
Yeah.
And we want things to be nice, and we want to deliver, and we want people to be happy around us, and that's part of our womanhood, And we want stability, we want protection, we want these things, and so with all these wants come, there's a lot of mental burden that we take on, that it's hard, but I think faith has really been a beautiful way to say, you know what, one day I might have children, and that will open up a new slew of fears for me as a parent, thinking about, well, what does that look like? I can't control my child going out, what they do when they do this, and just learning to say, like, there's only so much I can do my best on, and then the rest is up to God. That's God's child. Right. I'm an earthly custodian of this soul, but at the end of the day, that is God's child.
And we also have to remember, when we're raising our children, to count it all joy.
Yeah.
And that's not easy to do when some of the difficulties come up.
Yep.
But it's so true. We are their stewards, we are their guardians, and our Father up in heaven will see us through all
100%.
And so to count it all joy.
Yep.
I often say, like, I was, have periods in my life where I'm like, this is not joyful, okay?
Yeah.
But,
Been there
and then
too.
I was like, be like, well, all right, this is a dark period, but joy will come in the morning. Well, when is morning coming?
Yes.
My God, this is dark night's been going on for weeks, months,
Yeah.
And sometimes it happens like that. But joy does come in the morning.
Yep.
And sometimes morning takes a little bit longer to come.
Yep.
But you can trust.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Amen to all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
Thank you. One of the things we try to do here, on Celebrating Women is inspire and encourage other women and young girls.
Yep.
Do you have any advice that you could offer
Yeah.
to inspire and encourage
Absolutely. Well, one is, like we said, just keep your heart open, trust, because no matter where you go in life, whatever passion, career, profession you want to pursue, there's going to be a lot of dynamics that are going to be out of your control, and there's going to be a lot of things that are within your ability to control and pursue. And just be open to God's will for you. I think that's one thing, is that, like, for me, like I said, like, there have been plenty of points where I thought that I had I think a perfect example is my career started out in accounting. 5 years, I have a CPA license, and I invested a lot of time into that career path.
Yes.
I wasn't called to do that in the long run. I mean, it's nice having the foundation, the background, but I went and I switched, and that was something that I felt that I wanted to do, but it took courage to do that and redefine myself, you know, coming into my 30s now, where I'm basically kind of starting over with a new profession in technology. And so I would say, like, don't be afraid to make a switch if you need to, and don't feel like you can't wear a few hats if you want to, too. Like I said, like, I write poetry, I love doing what I do with my writing, but I also, I have a business. So I think just really owning all the multifaceted sides of yourself and recognizing that God made you special for a reason. He gave you those different desires, those different passions. Just embrace it, and you can have multiple paths of interest. You can pursue multiple things. You don't have to pick or choose. And if you feel like you do, then maybe you should reevaluate what is taking the time away from you that's making you feel like you need to pick or choose. Because you can do things that bring you passion and joy. You can do things that bring you financial success. You can merge those worlds. You can keep them separate, but you can live in both.
Beautifully said. That's wonderful advice. Thank you so much. I know our audience is going to love that and really take that to heart. One of the things that I learned, people say things a little bit differently sometimes, right? So my mother, when she was raising us, it was all about the Serenity Prayer. She just lived by that, and she would say, Diane, you're so stressed about something. Just give it up to God.
Yep.
And I usually found that very difficult to do.
Right.
And then I heard a song, and it was talked about laying it down.
Yeah.
And just that change of phrase, I was like, you know what? I struggle with giving it up to God, giving it up to God. I don't struggle with laying it down at the foot of the cross.
I love that.
Letting it go.
What a beautiful
and laying
image.
it down. And that all came.
That might be a poem later. That's beautiful.
It came from that one line in a song, in a Christian song. So
wow.
That's why when I'll be honest with the audience. I'm Catholic, and at my church, we worship very. Through our sacraments, through our words, through our prayers, through the Gospels.
Yeah. Yep.
And we also have song,
Yep.
okay? But then I go to my friend's church, and their worship songs are a little bit different than the hymns I'm used to as a Catholic.
Right.
But I embrace it, and I love it because we're all one.
Yep.
We are all brothers and sisters
Amen.
in Christ.
Amen.
So I love being invited to different events and different churches and hearing. So this is why, music is another.
It's powerful. Yeah.
Yes, it's powerful. And a line in a song can transform the way you think. A line in your poem, in your poetry, can change your mindset.
100%.
So it's so impactful, the spoken word, the written word, and the lyrics of a song.
Yeah. I feel that God will use anyone who's receptive to letting him work through them with their talents. And like that can transpire into music, that can transpire into poetry, writing, etc. And so it's very powerful. And when you read something that it's inspired, it's Holy Spirit inspired.
Yes.
You know that. You feel it. You see it, and you're like, I know it. I know it darn well when there's a moment where I'm writing and or I'm not writing. I'm in the kitchen, I'm doing dishes, and I'm doing something, and all of a sudden, boom, there's this image in my mind that came out of nowhere. Like, didn't even contemplate it, was never thinking about it, and then it's the beginning of a poem. Like sometimes there's a line that I feel like comes into my mind that I want to write off of, but sometimes it's this beautiful image that I feel inspired by, and that I want to create a work of art out of that. And then that is something that I take time to craft, and I want to give it to people. It's like making something. It's like, here, take it. You know, so.
Share with our audience in our closing moments how they can get in touch with you and how they can come across your books.
Yes, so my books are available on Amazon and other retail platforms as well. You can Google or search Conversations with God. My pen name is Jacqueline, and my full name is Jacqueline DeStefano-Tangorra. And then Water Lilies is also available on Amazon as well, and Barnes & Noble online. And you can follow me on Instagram. That's where I do all my poetry posting. And my handle is @JackAnn, so JACQ.ANN. And that's where I hope to inspire people daily. And then if you're interested of anything as relates to AI, machine learning, that side of me too, I have a business website, and that's www.omnibisolutions.com.
Wonderful. I have so enjoyed celebrating you today, Jackie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on.
This was so beautiful. It's literally like talking with a friend. You are a great friend, and
thank you.
This was so wonderful and beautiful, and I'm excited to see what this show continues to do for women.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, we're going to see you all next week with another wonderful show celebrating another wonderful woman. Till then, enjoy your time with us and have a wonderful rest of your day. God bless.